Culture doesn't live at the corporate level. Culture lives at the manager level. Managers account for nearly 70% of the variance in employee engagement. Good managers and bad managers under the same roof. That means two people can work in that same company under the same policies with the same pay plan and have completely different experiences. Hey, what's going on, all you Keep the Changers? Welcome back to the Keep the Change broadcast. Hey, today I get to go solo. We'll have guests going forward, but there's just some information that I think is so important for our industry currently. This podcast, if you're a first timer, is about leadership, growth, and one of my favorite words, transformation, not just in business, but in life. We talk about what it really takes to grow people, build teams, and create cultures that last. And I think culture is a word that's coming back in 26. So today I want to go deeper than we usually do. Yahoo! I want to talk about culture, but not culture the way most people think about it or talk about it. Not posters on the wall. There's some good posters though. Not mission statements. Remember those? Not values written in a handbook that nobody really reads. It's deeper than that. And I know you believe this. I want to talk about culture the way it actually shows up every day, every time, without fail. In conversations, in pressure, that's a big one, in meetings, and in how people feel when they walk into their place of work. Dude, they spend 90% of their life there. I want to bring people together with a few different lenses today. Research from the book, It's the Manager, which is a Gallup book. I love that. Insights from one of my favorite books, Marcus Buckingham's Love and Work. What I've seen through the culture scorecards that we've been doing for organizations and principles from my book, Keep the Change. I've put them all together. And then I want to also wrap it up with a bow with talking about what emotional intelligence does in playing a role in your leadership and your culture and your dealership. Cool? Because I've done a lot of work on this the last 6 months, the last 6 years, frankly, but culture isn't a theory to me. It's personal. And it's become a lot more personal lately. Culture is local. It's not a corporate thing. And let's explain that. One of the strongest conclusions from It's the Manager, the Gallup book, is this. And I'm going to quote what the authors say. Culture doesn't live at the corporate level. Culture lives at the manager level. You hear that? Managers account for nearly 70% of the variance in employee engagement. We've all been there. Good managers and bad managers under the same roof. That means two people can work in that same company under the same policies with the same pay plan and have completely different experiences. And that's based entirely on how they lead their people. So let's talk about this. Culture is not what leaders intend. Culture is what people experience, right? Now, I got to tell you a story. A long time ago, in a land far away, I worked at a place called Stevens Creek Toyota. It was one of my first jobs in a dealership. One of my managers was a guy named Kenny. Kenny was a high D personality, not real patient, probably a good man, but really hard to live with. Another one I worked with was a guy named Russ E. Now, Russ was unbelievable. He was encouraging. He listened well. He had incredible energy. He led the team beautifully. And people loved, frankly, working deals with Russ because not only did he give good feedback, he made you feel good, but also he made you the best person you could be. Kenny was always probably a little bit jealous of Russ. And Ken was, again, a different personality. Nobody wanted to walk up to him. Even if they made more money on a deal, which they didn't, they always wanted to go to Russ because he lifted them up more. He made us feel valued. He made us feel seen. And we always knew it was his communication. We've talked about communication a lot here. You always knew where you stood with Russ. Kenny, not so much. I like Kenny, but I wouldn't want to hang out with Kenny. Russ, whole different story. I would have run through a wall for Russ. How about you? Will they run through a wall for you? It's no coincidence that store had strong results when he was on the desk, when he was leading, because people don't just work harder for leaders like that, they follow them. Later on, Russ frankly left, went to another town, and Kenny took over, and they never had those same results. See, that's culture. That's culture in real life. And that kind of culture doesn't come from policy, it comes from presence, being present in the moment for people. People need to know not just how much, but how much you care. One of my favorite books, one of my favorite authors is a guy named Marcus Buckingham, who wrote the book Love and Work. Great book, highly recommend it. And this is, and I want to hit on that a little bit here while we're hanging out. Russ was about love and work, and he added an important layer. Both of those were a big part of how he led. It isn't sentiment. It's not being soft. It's not lowering the standards. It's not holding people accountable. Russ held people accountable. It was attention. It was listening. It was sustained. It was consistent. It was personal. Russ could look you in the eye and say, I believe in you. And you believe that he believed. In leadership terms, love means I notice you. I know you. I know what you can do. I care enough to help you grow. And I think so many people, especially with that word love, think it's a negative connotation sometimes. See, people don't give their best effort because they're managed well. Kenny managed us well. They give their best effort because they feel known and cared for. Russ and I had a lot of personal conversations. Kenny, not so. That's why great leaders remember what people are good at, what gives them energy, what drains them, what growth looks like for them. They pay attention to their people on a deep level. Great managers do. Love at work doesn't weaken accountability, man. It strengthens commitment. Because again, I would have ran through a wall for Russ. And that's always the kind of leader I wanted to be. People don't give discretionary effort to systems. They give discretionary effort to leaders. See, I believe that people, again, will do anything for the human that cares for them, that wants to help them grow. In my book, Keep the Change, one of the principles that I live by is, and I talk about, is ownership. See, we don't change by blaming circumstances. You and I change by owning our part. One of my favorite questions is, what's my role in that? And I believe that's changed my life. Culture works the same way, doesn't it? See, leaders often say, we need better people. True story, probably. We need more motivated employees. The generation now isn't very motivated. How many times have we heard that? We need to fix our culture. But culture doesn't change until leaders ask this question. What am I modeling every single day? They're watching you. You're in a fishbowl and they're watching every move you make. You get this. People don't do what you say. They do what you tolerate. They do what you repeat. They do what you model every day, every time. Leadership always shows up before results do. You want more results? Look in the mirror. One of the things that I really have been blown away by is the culture scorecard report that we've been giving to dealerships. And it's an incredible tool because it reveals so much. It's the secret sauce, I think. And what's interesting is how often leaders think they know their culture until the data comes back. Now, I don't know that everybody is completely surprised by everything the data says, but I know they're surprised about some of the things the data says. When employees are asked anonymously about communication, about trust, about accountability, about whether they're being coached or developed, about whether they're being recognized, about whether there's clarity of expectations, the gaps show up quickly. Not because leaders are bad people. I've met very few bad people in leadership, but because intent does not equal impact. It's one thing to have good intentions, but is it lending to results? Scorecards don't judge, they don't shame, they don't assign blame. That doesn't mean the leader won't feel judged once he reads it, but it is anonymous. What they reveal is awareness is always the first step forward. Dude, I did one with our ministry. I've done one with my own personal manager style, and I didn't always like the answers, but it changed my life. It changed my life because I owned it and I made consistent work toward the things that folks said I needed to work on. That's why I'm so excited about it and what I know it does for businesses. And one of the things that I think is revealed in any leadership culture is the quality and the impact of emotional intelligence. Because you and I get that emotional intelligence is a critical piece. You get it. If you don't know it, it's self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship management. See, if leaders lack emotional intelligence in any of those areas, culture suffers. I want to know how well my leaders are at emotional intelligence. It will define whether they can transform, whether they can love. Russ had incredible emotional intelligence. See, you and I, we have to recognize our own emotions. We have to manage our reactions. Can't throw staplers. We've got to read the room. We have to understand how our behavior impacts other people. Are you really paying attention to that? Are you responding with love or are you reacting? See, most culture problems, they're not skill problems. They're awareness problems. I love step one in AA, step one of my book, chapter one, self-awareness, man. It starts with that. I need to know on a daily basis how I look to others. That's, again, what I love about those scorecards. I've worked with leaders for years who are really smart, highly driven, and deeply committed, but completely unaware of how they come across. I met somebody last night, an HR person at a dealership, and she just doesn't get how she comes across. Her tone shuts people down. Her silence created anxiety. And it's not just she, a lot of people don't have any idea that it's happening. She's a great person, frankly, but she just doesn't understand how other people read her. And once she becomes aware and not defensive, just aware, everything can change. Same standards, same expectations, but a completely different response from our people. Not picking on her, she's just an example. And that's the power of emotional intelligence. That's the power of love at work. That's the power of having somebody do an assessment on us. That's the power of really understanding how to be a great manager. See, I think it's really important. We've talked about this today, but emotional intelligence doesn't mean leaders are soft. It makes them effective. It allows leaders to hold people accountable without crushing trust. Because frankly, emotional intelligence leaders, we've talked about this before on our podcast, they communicate better and they become better coaches, better activators. The book It's the Manager and Love at Work both point out the same conclusion. This is why I love these tools. That's why I love these books. The modern leader This is 2026. Come on, people. Must shift from boss, that's just the way it is, level one leader, to coach. How do we work on this together? Not lowering standards, definitely not avoiding tough conversations. Got to have those. We've talked about that too. But changing the posture. No, not how you're sitting. I just found myself sitting up as I'm talking about that. And your reviews don't build culture. Weekly, strong conversations do. Culture is built in one-on-ones, folks. Culture is built in those daily interactions. Culture is built in how you handle mistakes. We all make them. Culture is built in how effort is noticed. Culture is built in how expectations are clarified. When I had a manager years ago, Frank Kistler, that said, "I believe in you," everything changed. Culture rises or falls with leadership behavior. Give you some things to think about today, or what? I'll close with this. I just love what we're doing in our business now. I love that I get to work on love with managers. If you're listening and thinking, I want a clearer picture of my culture, or I want to understand how my leadership is really landing, you might know, but you're maybe ignoring it. Or you want to grow as a leader, not just manage tasks, but develop leader. How can you be a level 4 leader? These are two tools that I would love to talk to you about and to start a conversation. One is the culture scorecard, which gives leaders honest feedback about what's working and where the gaps are. We had a dealership last week that signed up to do this, and it's incredible of how enthusiastic they are about taking this on. The other that I'm highly recommending, which we're going to do with our clients, is emotional intelligence assessments for all the leaders going through the boot camps. And it leads to growth. Hey, there's no pitch here. There's absolutely no pressure. But if you want to explore these or simply talk through what you're seeing in your organization, reach out at Bart@bartnollenberger.com, or you can reach out on Facebook or LinkedIn. Sometimes you and I get this, that the most important step isn't having all the answers. Oh my gosh, I'm from Toledo. I don't. It's being willing to ask better questions, like, what did I do right today? What did I learn today? What must I change today? And what's my role in this? Hey, thanks for hanging out. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who leads people. And please remember this: your culture doesn't change by accident. It changes when leaders choose to grow. Let's go. Let's grow. I'll see you next time on Keep the Change.